Throughout the history of the Appalachian Mountains, the Southern Baptist Church has been a lighthouse, illuminating the lives of individuals by providing many in the mountains with a unique belief system. Let's go back and see just how this lighthouse came to be. The Appalachian Mountains were formed by a series of geological events which carved the mountains into their current form. Another force that played in the formation of the mountains, although mainly in the people rather than the land, is religion. Throughout history, religion has shaped cultures and entire countries. Oftentimes, an area is defined by its religion or the beliefs that the population of that area has. Religion and religious activities have been influential in the shaping of Appalachian culture and are still vital parts of modern society in the Appalachian Mountains. Although Native Americans called the Appalachian Mountains home long before white settlers did, in the early 1700s, European immigrants began to migrate to the Appalachian frontier. By the late 18th century, many migrants from Europe and other foreign countries had come to live in the states that would come to be known as the Appalachian Mountains. These states were such as Tennessee, West Virginia, and North Carolina. These settlers came to the mountains for religious freedom and brought with them their own unique Protestant beliefs that laid the path for modern Appalachian religion. As with most cultures, religion has played a key role in the development of society in the Appalachian Mountains. Settlers that came to the area had developed religious beliefs that molded societal aspects and the way of living in the mountains. From the 1700s to modern times, many of the inhabitants of the Appalachian Mountains have lived their lives by adhering to the faith they hold. This way of life includes certain standards for youth, marriage, and family. Religion in the Appalachian Mountains has created a framework that relies on a close family bond, a strong Protestant work ethic, and the beliefs found in the Holy Bible. The main literature that many Appalachians have relied on through hundreds of years is the King James Version of the Holy Bible, which was written in 1611. This Bible has proven to be the basis of almost all religion in the Appalachian Mountains. Since immigrants in the 1700s came into the area, culture has been affected largely by religion. The culture within an area is defined by the social aspects the inhabitants portray. These aspects include norms, beliefs, and anything from entertainment to the work ethic that an area has. Religion is often unique to culture, which means that unlike beliefs arise from different cultures. Throughout time, a culture adapts to changes brought on by religion and other social aspects. The changes brought on by religion and other social aspects are evident in the culture of the Appalachian Mountains and are based primarily on the religious beliefs that the early settlers brought with them when they immigrated to the area. Appalachian religion surrounds almost every aspect of a person's life if the said person does participate in religious practices. One such important concept that often intertwines with religion is the generational longevity of beliefs. Many religious beliefs are passed down from one generation to the next, which create long strands of principles that can be traced back many, many decades. Due to this mixing of religion and the beliefs of individual families, many of those practicing religion sometimes mistake a belief passed from one generation to the next with those written in the context of the Holy Bible. Religion in the Appalachian Mountains has almost as much to do with the inherited beliefs of a family as it does religious beliefs. A prime example of Appalachian religion affecting family would be the popularity of family closeness within these mountains. A firm belief that many Appalachians hold is the unity of family. This unity of family possibly stems from the biblical story of Jesus Christ being sent down from heaven by his Father to die for those who have sinned. As John the Apostle writes in the Holy Bible, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." That was written in the King James Bible, chapter 3, verse 16 in John. Family ties are strong for Appalachian families practicing religion, as they have a strong faith in what the Holy Bible says, drawing family members closer together. In an interview I had with Richard Sneed, pastor of South End Baptist Church in Murphy, North Carolina, he said, "I was fortunate as a child growing up in a home with God-fearing parents. One of 5 siblings, we were taken to church every Sunday and any other scheduled service. The little church we attended was a country church atmosphere, although it was located in the city limits. In the summer, everyone used a handheld fan, furnished by a local funeral home, to relieve the heat. In the winter, a wood stove provided the heat which kept us warm. The pews were not padded and covered, but the people did not seem to mind. They were content to be there to worship their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and their Heavenly Father." This quote references how important family was in a time which material objects were not as accessible in the Appalachian Mountains as they are today. Family was often the only concept that many elder Appalachians had in earlier days. Few recall having many material goods, but tell of the simplicity of having all a person needs within the family unit. As religion often dictates family matters in the Appalachian Mountains, it also dictates the choice of music within a family. At one point in time, many Appalachian families would not listen to music with stringed instruments, as they believed that these instruments were of unnatural being and satanic. As technology grew and more families within the mountains were being faced with music beyond the borders of the mountains, they were also faced with temptations. Many families decided not to listen to newer styled music such as rock and roll, pop, and swing. As families decided not to adhere to newer styles of music, their taste in more familiar styles such as country, western, and gospel grew and became stronger. Some families started small singing groups centered on hymns that have been sung for decades, and in some cases, centuries. In a turn of events, the gradual starting of groups led to record deals, productions, the writing of new songs, and television shows such as the Gospel Singing Jubilee. These advancements in Appalachian religion were unforeseen and led to increased cash flow from some singing groups. The resistance to newer styles of music created tighter bonds between families and their choice of music. For many years, gospel record sales were among the top-selling albums across the nations. The adherence to tradition and beliefs led many Appalachians to have their talents recognized and helped strengthen beliefs that some had within their families for decades prior. The concept of material items is one that is often debated within Appalachian religion. Those familiar with the past of the area know that economic conditions were unstable and poor, resulting in the absence of many material items deemed unnecessary by some Appalachian mountain dwellers. Even though many Appalachian mountain dwellers have had to go without material items, they have always found a way to give to the church. So perhaps one of the most surprising aspects of Appalachian religion is one concerning funds. Due to the economic nature of the Appalachian area, many families do live below the poverty line, and generations past have still managed to donate and fund religious advances within the mountains. By the 1950s, many Baptist churches were already over 100 years old and were in desperate need of repair or, in some cases, replacement. Families rooted in their faith sacrifice both time and money to provide for their churches and other religious organizations associated with the churches, which some would say was one of the greatest acts, as these families themselves did not even have much money at all, and in some cases donated time that they didn't even have. Many churches within the Appalachian Mountains have remained open because of the generosity of Baptist church members and those seeking a life acquainted with religious hope and faith. An illustration of a church's preservation is that of the Friendship Baptist Church No. 2 in Mineral Bluff, Georgia. Friendship Baptist Church No. 2 has been in existence a very long time through both relocations of the church, congregational disruptions, and new pastors. The cornerstone on the present brick church building reads, Friendship Baptist Church, organized 1858, rebuilt 1958. Arthur Rucker, pastor. Some members of the church are descendants of the original founders. The church's original location was on Jonica Gap, which some can remember as an old wooden church facing another way. The building was located in at least 3 places before it was firmly established at its present site on Highway 60 in Mineral Bluff, Georgia, just past the Georgia and North Carolina state line. The present building was bricked in 1958 when Quinn Howe was the pastor of the church. Reverend Howe and his wife Noreen also oversaw the addition of Sunday school classrooms in the original fellowship hall, which is below these Sunday school classrooms. The story of Reverend Quinn Howe explains why the Baptist faith in the Appalachian Mountains is still so resilient today. Reverend Howe spent most of his younger days as a professional boxer before having a reformation in his life. Quinn was raised in a smaller Appalachian church that embodied many Appalachian religious beliefs. These beliefs remained with him as he pastored at Friendship Baptist Church No. 2 for many years with his wife Noreen. Reverend Howe would only listen to a certain style of music, would pray before any meal, whether it was in a restaurant or at a Sunday dinner. Howe was molded by the Baptist faith in Appalachian religion and was a major influence in his area to younger children that are now adults, which live and contribute to modern-day Baptist faith in the Appalachian Mountains. Modern Appalachian religion is truly a thing of the past. The religious behaviors seen in the Appalachian Mountains today are almost all aspects that have been handed down through generations of religious activity and the behaviors of family. The language that many inhabitants of the Appalachian Mountains use is often referred to as poor grammar, but many phrases and words are actually just pronunciations altered through time. With the Appalachian Mountains acting as a border to the farther expanses of the country, cultural differences have remained from long ago within the Appalachian realm. As the North American Mission Board stated in 2013, the Appalachian culture that we witness today is one that has been preserved mostly by the families and the churches. The constant attempts by the outlanders to change this culture are testimony to the determination and strength that persists in its culture. This culture is based on subsistence, agriculture, and hunting, not on industrial class-structured ways of existence. The 2 key factors of the culture of Appalachia are the independence displayed and the constant mutual aid provided to others in the region. There is a sense of equality that exists between the people. This is of course in sharp contrast to the inequality and elitism that exist in other areas of modern society. Culture has certainly been preserved by the traditions of the church and religion, but families play major roles in keeping past traditions alive. By continuing on with worship services as they were in the past and adhering to older beliefs, culture is able to remain intact in both the Appalachian Mountains and in the Baptist faith. The institution of church in the Appalachian Mountains has allowed for changes to be made without affecting beliefs or the overall culture of Appalachian religion in major ways. The fact that culture is still relevant in the mountains in modern times has paved the way for it to remain pertinent in the future. The social structure of mountain families in current times is based on how many previous generations were raised and lived before. Today, it is commonplace for families to use methods of teaching children and resolving issues that were used by their ancestors. Religion in the Appalachian Mountains, that include in the Baptist faith, has most largely been impacted by the settlers who came to the area in the early 1700s. The descendants of these settlers have molded Appalachian religion into what it is today. The second largest possible influence on the current religion in the mountains would be the descendants and families who have continued to preserve beliefs and traditions, while along the way have added or altered traditions to fit with the changing times, never leaving the word of the Lord and the book that they read, the Holy Bible. Culture in the Appalachian Mountains has largely been impacted by the religion and religious beliefs that the inhabitants in the mountains practice. The region known as the Appalachian Mountains was created a vast time ago, but what has truly shaped the mountains is the culture of the people living within the area. This culture has perhaps been most largely influenced by the religion of the population. Religion and religious activities have been influential in the shaping of Appalachian culture, are still vital parts of modern society in the Appalachian Mountains, and perhaps the Baptist faith will always play a large role in the future of Appalachian culture, shedding its light from its lighthouse on the bay to everyone who will listen.